That will just drop.
Welcome back to the Virtual Design Master. Here we are. This is our penultimate episode, and we have 5 remaining contestants, but only 3 are going to move forward into the final challenge. As you may already know, we've sweetened the prize pool in a big way with the addition of a VCDX defense coverage, as well as 20 hours of personal VCDX mentoring from Renee Vandenbedem, otherwise known to many as VCDX 133. We also added another sponsor along the way to add to our already exciting group, which now is including a great pool of people, including Infinio, who've added a $100 gift certificate for one of our competitors, Jason Langer from virtuallanger.com, Veeam Software, VMware Press, IPSpace.net, HP, Pernix Data. We have Zerto, of course, well known for providing our Home Lab Grand Prize. And now we welcome back our 2013 premier sponsor, baremetalcloud.com. So in addition to the $1,000 prize pool that we're going to distribute among the final 3, Bare Metal Cloud is going to be involved in a very special way that we're going to explain in a little while. So as always, we are joined by our Virtual Design Master crew. We have Angelo Luciani with us today. Angelo, how are you doing?
Good. How's everybody today?
I think everybody's ready for a big night, or maybe they're right. Hard to tell. Of course, we have our creative director, Melissa Palmer. Melissa, how is it going?
Oh, it's going good. I think it'll be much better. It'll be going a lot better once everybody gets their final challenge. And maybe I have something extra planned for some other people. Who knows?
That's the fun part. As we've seen throughout this whole competition, not only do we have some amazing excitement, but sometimes there's little surprises that pop up along the way. So, without further ado, we know where we were with Challenge 3. This was a really intense challenge. So we have our competitors that were actually tasked with something called stacking the odds. Not only did they have to provide a live deployment of a vSphere environment, but they also had to add OpenStack components in order to launch and manage instances on both a vSphere backend as well as any backend of their choice on another hypervisor. We were really amazed. We've got some great design docs that are going to show up, as well as the YouTube videos that are going to show the actual live deployments and how they went. So it was quite a challenge, and I know we're going to have some great stories that the folks are going to tell us here as they go through their defense. So, Angelo, maybe if you want to get us started here, and let's get on with the defense portion of our program.
Thanks, Eric, and congratulations to all you guys for making it this far. I know this challenge has been really interesting, and I'm watching on Twitter, following the tweets between you guys. You could tell that you guys really pushed through, made it to the end, and you're here. So that's great. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with Timothy. But before I have you defend your design, Timothy, is there anything you want to share with the audience on this task in particular? Anything you learned, or anything new, or anything you were challenged with? Just to give the folks a little bit of background on how it went for you.
Sure. Well, I've learned that I cannot cram in a challenge in 2 days worth of time. As you recall, last Thursday I was kind of in the middle of nowhere doing my defense, and I was actually on the tail end of a vacation. So got back home, finally got some internet access back at my disposal, and tried to cram it in as quick as possible. I had some OpenStack experience previously in my career, but never combining it with vSphere. So that was a challenge for me. It's good to see the use of the different technologies. It was definitely a hard challenge, and I'm quite honestly surprised I was able to make the submission deadline.
Great, good. So again, congratulations on submitting it and making it this far. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to defend your design, starting now.
All right. Well, my design, I just went for the basics. I wanted to keep it simple. I set up a working OpenStack environment in my lab, which is running on nested ESXi hosts, and I was able to set up a vSphere cluster and actually had everything provisioned correctly through the Horizon portal. The networking miraculously was working, and life was good. I just basically followed the OpenStack install guide, installed everything on top of CentOS 6.5 from scratch. I didn't start with any kind of other stack, just wanted to complete the goals.
Great, good job, Timothy. All right, we're going to go to the judges now. Josh Atwell, any comments or questions for Timothy's design?
So a couple of comments. First of all, RTFM, very good to hear that reading the manual proved useful in getting something to work. That's reassuring for everybody that's listening. Sometimes it's good to read the manual. Google's good too, but read the manual. A couple of interesting things that you had in there that I liked. Great use of nested, doing the nested ESXi. I was really glad to see that, especially for people looking to learn OpenStack. And from the proof of concept standpoint, I thought that was a really good use of resources. You made the comment, if you design for failure, nothing will ever fail. I liked that as well. Zombies driving boats, good addition there. I'm always a fan of the little Easter eggs. And I wanted to kind of ask, and Angelo kind of hit it, what lessons did you learn can be extrapolated on what lessons learned can be extrapolated on page 11 images? I don't even remember what was on there. I had a terrible note, apparently. So, sorry.
Right.
So you're good.
Well, I don't know page 11.
Yeah, I know. I should have pulled that up. So that was actually my question, and I had a terrible reference. So, Josh, go ahead, and I'll pull that up, that reference, and then I'll ask my question.
Great.
Oh, the pressure's on me now. Okay.
Well, I mean, I found it now.
Yeah. No, look, to echo Josh's comments, nested, great idea. What I found really good was in your video demonstration, you actually did deployments to virtual machines, proving that concept. So I thought, from that perspective, you really met the requirement of the challenge. One question I had is, you mentioned storage DRS, and you mentioned that it will be created with 2 data stores, and the data stores are of different sizes and things like that. I just wanted to understand that design a bit more.
Just throwing data stores of 2 different sizes was more of an illustration point than anything. It wasn't a recommendation for production design, but it was to show that OpenStack sees a storage cluster as one entity, and that it would handle the initial placement of virtual machines.
All right. You there, Timothy?
We've got
I think the zombies got him.
Yeah, we got.
We have to move him to a secure location.
Either that or he went to 3G.
Yeah.
Ooh, equally scary.
It's even worse than zombies. Yeah, we hear you.
Good.
All right. The storage component was just to prove a point that OpenStack sees all the storage as one entity, and that storage DRS will be the initial placement for you. It wasn't a design decision to be used in a production environment or a final deployment. It was just kind of illustrating the point of how the technology works.
Okay, cool. And I liked, the other thing was, I liked that you chose a very basic setup from a hardware perspective, so that if you had to deploy this on different hardware in the future, you wouldn't be constrained. So I thought that was quite clever.
Great, thanks,
So,
Josh.
Angelo, I got my question. I figured out what
yeah.
what my note was cryptic about, and it's a good one, I hope. So, in your design doc, you said that the lab setup described in the previous sections produced a fully working POC. Based upon lessons learned in the lab, recommendations can be extrapolated for a full-scale production and design. Please expand on that.
Okay. Basically, what that was getting at is the lessons that I may have personally learned on how to set up a compute node that can control the vSphere API. It was a little tricky for me at first. Shockingly, there's not a lot of docs on how to set that up. I actually ended up using a combination of the clients kind of dissected that a little bit to apply it into my environment and figure out how did they connect vSphere into their OpenStack setup. And that kind of pulled that out. So that's kind of what I was referring to there, is actually how do you integrate vSphere with OpenStack and vice versa.
Okay, fair enough.
Great, thanks, Josh. Okay, great, thanks, Timothy. We're going to move on to We're going to move on to Damon. And again, before you defend your design, anything you want to share with the audience on, in particular, regarding Challenge 3 and maybe what you learned?
Sure. I'd say that the most difficult part that I ran into with this is finding consistent information. Like, there's so much information out there about OpenStack, and with the current release or production release, Icehouse, it's the ninth iteration of OpenStack, and there's so many different versions before it and different components and modules to figure out what works in a multi-hypervisor environment and it is compatible. It's very, very tricky. Especially when you start incorporating advanced things such as Neutron and Open vSwitching and that kind of stuff. So I found one thing that I thought was very useful is here's a hats off to Eric over there. You know, the Pluralsight video that you did, very, very good. That set me on the right path. Then after that, I went through the Couch to OpenStack series, and
those are good.
Then from there I just went right into the manuals and looked at different deployments, types of scenarios that are out there. I tried to get an understanding of all the different components, and then once I got a bit of an understanding of that, then I whittled it down to something that was a bit more manageable, and that's when I went into my design.
Great, good, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to defend your design starting now.
Okay, so the key things that I wanted to do with my design are use as many of the same components that I used in my previous design. So I went off the original design from Challenge 1, but I scaled that down a little bit because it didn't have all the same requirements. It didn't need to support the processing capabilities of the launch site, and didn't have to have as many staff support it and run it. But I wanted to make sure that the 3 different locations we had were set up as regions within OpenStack. So I set up those regions, and then within those regions I set up different availability zones so that there's redundancy within the infrastructure as well. And I made sure to separate the management cluster for vSphere separate from the management cluster from OpenStack, and then I set up my 2 compute clusters, one for ESXi and then one for KVM as well. So okay. I try to segment it as much as possible, but also use all the different things that are available there.
Got it. I'm going to cut you off there. That's great. Good job. Josh Odgers, any questions, comments for Damon?
Yeah, I guess I thought your video was excellent. Obviously, you've got some experience in creating videos and things, so that was quite entertaining with the voiceover and so forth. Thanks. So well done with that. I think you did well updating your document to reflect the new requirements, and the thing that I liked the most was your design decision about having the fewest number of components possible. I thought that was really good to be called out. A couple of questions I had was around Pernix data. What was the use of Pernix data? Because there was mention of NFS as well. So I'm just wondering, with Pernix not yet supporting NFS or only soon to be releasing NFS support, what was the use of Pernix there?
I was under the assumption that Pernix actually does support NFS right now, so that's why that's in the design. So if it doesn't, then that's a fault on my part. But it was meant to. It
definitely will be in the future. I'm not sure if it's GA yet, but I definitely know it was on their roadmap. So I was curious about that. And the other thing, I was just wondering if you were to actually scale this out, so if you're actually going to deploy it, your proof of concept is successful, do you think you might have difficulty with deployment due to the size of the infrastructure and getting parts and things like that?
I wouldn't think so, because the underlying infrastructure doesn't need to be the same. I can have different infrastructure different components, and the networking is all done on a software level, so I don't have to worry about that as much, and I think that it would scale out using different components.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Josh Atwell, comments, questions for Damon?
Yeah, I am in complete and total agreement on the carrying of katanas in a zombie apocalypse situation. I am less certain about the use of concussion grenades. Not sure how effective they would be. I wanted to make a specific comment that I liked about your design, in that your diagramming of kind of the physical layout I thought was very good, especially like the cabling diagram. When you have remote staff who may not be fully versed into what they're doing, I thought that was real helpful. You had some good notes on scalability. Unfortunately, Josh kind of touched on some of my stuff, so I'm going to rephrase my question a little bit, because I had a question about the Pernix data side. What is it for? Why is it needed? What was the design consideration for including Pernix data in the first place?
Well, originally it was to accelerate the performance of a certain workload. So if they were to have SQL Server databases on there and they needed the extra IOPS, then they could have certain VMs that would be Pernix accelerated, so that they wouldn't have as much of an impact on the rest of the environment.
Okay, and that's fine. And then the other question I had, and this was just curiosity on my part, is that you specifically outlined that the management infrastructure was going to be on VMware, all the management virtual machines. Can you speak a little bit to why you made that decision to do that?
Well, in my opinion, it's very, very sturdy. It's robust. I didn't think that I needed to change the management platform to have multi hypervisor for the management. I wanted to do it for consistency purposes. So I can definitely understand the reasoning for having multi hypervisor on the compute to scale out, especially in terms of licensing and getting available hardware around. But I wanted to simplify the environment as much as possible, and also make use of the HA, DRS, and those features on the management side.
Excellent answer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Damon. Okay, we're going to move on to Jeff. And Jeff, if there's anything you want to share with the audience as you work through challenge 3, anything you learned, anything you want to share.
Yeah, so you guys can hear me okay? I think the thing that I did learn is that rule number 1 in a design, when you have to design something, is to pay attention to the requirements, right? So I think as I went on towards the last minute, I kind of realized that I had not met a critical piece of the requirement for the challenge. However, there was not a lot of time to change direction. So what I wanted to do at that point was just showcase that I understand, how the OpenStack, my experience and my understanding of how OpenStack, KVM, and VMware would all interrelate together. And so I wanted to take that knowledge and put it together into a nice design document and present something.
Right.
So that it was, so that I wasn't not turning in anything. So, I kind of call this design the Sesame Street design. One of these is not like the other. So, one of this design is not like the other designs, but it's what I put together, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to defend your design, starting now.
So what I wanted to do was I wanted to go back kind of to what I had done in the beginning, kind of like what Damon was doing, and to take my original design and take some pieces and parts out of it, the best pieces and parts I could, and adapt those around the OpenStack piece. So I stuck with the SolidFire stuff, and I built out a separate Swift environment, just simply because how I understood it is that if you needed block storage, a Cinder type device, you would have to stay with you would need a block type of setup. So went with Ubuntu. I could have went with Ceph for object-based storage and block-based storage, but I decided to stay with Swift because I wasn't sure that you could actually present Ceph storage to VMware.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Josh Atwell, any comments, questions?
Yeah, first off, I really, really, really wish that you would have had more time or more opportunity to completely flesh out your design. I thoroughly liked what you were doing with your design. I thought your physical design and logical design were just well executed. When you consider that the criteria was that an island, you have to hand over this documentation to people who may be poorly staffed. I thought you just did a phenomenal job. Great use of management cluster. Your outline of the vSphere config requirements. You were doing an absolutely fantastic job. So my only question is why did you break my heart and not fulfill all the requirements?
So here's the deal, right? So
no, it's okay. You don't have to explain. Seriously, Jeff. Seriously, that's the only thing I've got. I thought you were doing an absolutely bang-up job. In fact, if I could give you more time, I would love to have seen what you would have completed on the stock. You did a great job.
I appreciate it. If I was able to flesh this out a little bit more and have a little bit more time, I probably would have had to do something other than use SolidFire because I have a cool lab at home, but my wife's not cool enough on having five SolidFire nodes in my house. Plus, nor do I have 250 grand or however much money it is. This is all list pricing, so I don't have the ability to do that. So, if I wanted to, in my demo, I wanted to at least show that I could do something, and I put up I used the VOVA to do it. I think. I really wanted to do a Windows deployment, but every time I kept deploying a Windows, I had built an auto unattended Windows 2012 core installation, and I had it all set up to go into OpenStack, and every time I would throw it into Glance, it would sit at saving. And it would take years for it to get into that point, and it would just stay there. And I did it probably 7 or 8 times, and it really broke my heart that I couldn't at least get that piece of it done.
Yeah. Well, I know how frustrating that can be. I write code, so but you should be very proud of the work that you submitted. It was good stuff.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Josh Rogers, any comments, questions for Jeff?
This will be my first critique by Josh Rogers. I've been rather lucky, so he's going to brutalize me.
Hold on.
Hold on to your seat.
Yeah.
Brutalize me.
Absolutely. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, I have to echo what Josh was saying. I thought the documentation was really good. I thought, had you been given more time, it would have been great to see what you would have come up with. And you answered the question I was going to ask in your previous statement, which was, your proof of concept wasn't fully completed, so you've already explained why. That was really, the only thing that I was curious about. So, yeah, great job on the doco. I think definitely handing that over to a remote site with limited skills, it would be a document that could probably be well followed and successfully implemented. So, yeah, good job.
Thank you very much.
Good. Thanks, Josh. Okay, we're going to move on to Byron. Great. I'm glad you were able to make it. I know you've had a busy day today. So what I just wanted you to, before I ask you to defend your design, if there's anything you want to share with the audience on, working through Challenge 3, anything you learned, anything interesting that you think the audience might be keen on hearing about.
Sure. 2 things real quick. First was this was really, really hard. To be totally honest, this was brutally hard. And it was one of those things I'm more of a pre-sales design guy, that's what I do, and this was more of a tactical challenge for me. And so I spent about 60 hours over the weekend, which is, do the math, I didn't sleep a whole lot, to be honest, to actually make this work. and that was my main focus. And when it got down to actually writing the documentation around it, I had like 3 hours left till midnight, and I was just really trying to pound it out. And it wasn't really what I wanted to get in because it was more of a tactile reflection of the fact that the documentation around doing this is very light on the internet. Like the stuff that's out and Launchpad.net bug reports and trying to find ways to make this work, and it was tough.
Right.
And wanted to give something to the folks out there that want to do this. Hopefully, like give them some guidance on how do you actually make a Windows image that will deploy on KVM through Glance, because it's not easy, folks.
Right.
And kind of went that route as opposed to a traditional like fictitious design as we've been doing, and trying to just get that point across, to be honest. So that's kind of where I came from here.
Yeah, great. That's great. And again, congratulations on making it this far. So, what I'm going to do now, great. What I'm going to do now is give you 1 minute to defend your design, starting now.
Sure. So really, again, this is mainly a tactical design. It was how can I make it work? I had I guess 5-node OpenStack deployment with Ubuntu 14.4, and it was all based around having 2 compute nodes, one for KVM, one going back to vSphere using neutron networking. I did have an NSX, so there's a limitation there of I had to kind of kludge around the vSphere network to make that work as well. It kind of did. I don't know if it actually fulfilled the requirements, but they could all ping out. And that was kind of the end of the day. It was more of a tactical decision there as opposed to going further with making my own GRE title and stuff like that. And that was more of a time constraint really issue. And it comes down to I think I know what was broken in it and how it could have been fixed. It was just a matter of hours in the day and just getting it done, to be honest.
Great. Good job, Byron. Josh Rogers, any comments, questions for Byron?
Yeah, look, overall, I think the main thing from your design that I thought let you down a bit was the lack of diagrams. So there was only one diagram in the actual design itself. I think had you put in some more diagrams, some of the other contestants were quite clear in their documents, so I think that was probably the weaker point of your design. I thought for your proof of concept that you were able to achieve the requirement, which was great. I think that's the key of this challenge, was to be able to show a working deployment. And I think my real question here is, if you were to try and deploy this out, do you think your documentation would be a limitation, which could be a risk that it couldn't be deployed by someone else if you were unavailable?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I had about 2.5 hours left in the day to actually do those docs. Weren't really what I wanted to do. I didn't have time to do the videos. I think it would be hard to replicate. On the image side, it was less of a design doc, more of a how-to, kind of at that last section of how to actually build those images, and I think that was okay. I wish I had more time to actually flesh that out as opposed to focusing on making it work.
Sure. No, that's fair. You didn't have a lot of time, so I think the fact that you got it functioning is a credit to you.
That was the hard part. Agreed. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. Josh Atwell, any comments, questions for Byron?
Yeah, so a couple of things. As a scripter, when the script works, that means a lot. It doesn't always have to be pretty on the inside, right? It's sometimes it's about the end result. That being said, I want to comment a couple of things. One, I'm really glad that Ken Weave is the hero of humanity. I caught that, and I will let Ken know that he owes us all a drink at VMworld. I really liked the fact that, given what you were dealing with, that you highlighted what you were learning and what was going on. I thought that this was an interesting and useful doc for people to learn. I did find that it was a bit light on the requirements for delivering to a remote site to be able to replicate what you learned. Now, that being said, it's not that it's useless, because certainly people who are at that site would be able to oh, okay, well, I'm not going to do that, and I don't need to do it. I mean, it's a great training resource and to bring people up to speed, which should be a good complement to a good design, or a part of a good design. So to Josh's point, a lot more diagrams and talking about what things actually look like and what's built there, so that someone new and not as accustomed to what you have is getting some context to what you're saying to them. And so for to get some more feedback from you, can you tell me a little bit more about what you learned and what was involved with VMware networking and Neutron?
Okay, so a ton, to be honest. In fact, I actually had a conversation today with Mr. Cody Bunch about that at the EDV mug. So it was interesting because I have NSX in my lab. I'm just now getting started using it, and I don't know it that well. And so I didn't want to try to kludge together making that work as an endpoint for Neutron, because I just didn't have the time, to be honest. And it's one of those things of, had I done Nova networking side by side with Neutron, I could have made them both work, but it's, again, a kind of a time constraint. So without NSX as the endpoint, Neutron will not work in vSphere. That's basically just how it is. You could deploy like a Cisco cloud router device and make your own GRE tunnel to make that work, but it's a ton of effort, and I just don't know GRE that well, to be honest, to make that work on the Cisco side. So there are ways around it. They are difficult, and you have to know networking really well to make them happen. Without it, the NSX piece, even with that, to be honest, you really have to know what you're doing. But if you just but if you want the extensibility of the different private networks and things like that with the tenants, Neutron works better. So it's one of those things of it's really a trade-off of, do you want the simplicity or the functionality, and how do you achieve it? And that's kind of what I came to there.
Great answer. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Byron, thank you. Josh Odgers, Josh Atwell, thank you very much for the insights on Challenge 3. Congratulations to everyone for making it this far. I know you guys worked hard this week. Just following it on Twitter, you could tell you guys were really pushing through. It was great seeing you guys helping each other as well. So with that, I think I'm going to throw it back to Eric just to give a quick update.
All right. Well, thank you, Angelo, and thank you again, everybody who, participants and judges. Now, we noticed that we talked about 5 people coming in, and only 3 were going to move on. As you can see by the count below, we're a little bit shy of our 5. Unfortunately, as seems to go in the virtual design master tradition, we had a real time challenge, and in fact, Rob Nelson had to actually bow out. He was really cramped on time. Actually, we know as almost our entire virtual design master crew is moving, it seems to be that Rob was joining that bunch, and so unfortunately, Rob has had to step away, and that actually is going to be a sigh of relief for somebody, because that means that's one less person that's going to have to worry about going home tonight. So we do want to thank Rob again. He did a great job throughout the competition, and we're very proud of what happened. Unfortunately, we can't bring him ahead. Now again, this was a challenge. We wanted being able to complete a proof of concept, be able to do documentation around it. Now the challenge we've got with that is that we can see we've had some successes and some difficulties in each of the competitors' submissions. And this is what makes it particularly difficult for us to think about who is going to move on and who unfortunately is going to have to go home tonight. So with that, I think it's time for us to hand it back to Angelo, because Angelo, you're so good at this that I wouldn't want to break the tradition.
Yeah. Okay. This is okay, folks. This piece of paper here contains the names of the individuals that will be moving on and the one individual that will not be moving on. And I think I've had enough of this, so I think I'm going to pass this piece of paper over to Melissa, and she can do the dirty work. So here you go, Melissa.
Oh, no. I'm not doing this. I do the challenges. That's why people don't like me. I'm not going to be the girl that gets rid of everybody else, and I'm not going to be your human shield. So, Eric, I think it's your turn to do this, really. You should do this.
Now, I don't understand how it is that This thing always seems to come back to me somehow. Again, you know, we're all about tradition here and following a very tight script with all the planning that goes involved. I have to say, Angelo clearly is the best for being able to deliver the final news. So, Angelo, I'm going to pass this back to you, and I think we'd like to get on to the final challenge.
Okay, Eric. I guess someone's got to do it. I'll be that guy. Please don't hate on me at VMworld. That's all I ask. All right. So here's the tough news. So the judges have decided, and Timothy will move on to the final challenge. Damon will move on to the final challenge. Jeff will not move on to the final challenge. Byron, dramatic pause, will move on to the final challenge. So congratulations to the folks that are moving on. And Jeff, I know you put up a good fight. I know it was tough, and we're gonna keep looking out for you throughout the competition. So we hope we don't lose you. Hope you stay engaged. And I know it was a tough challenge.
No problem. I was just happy to be a part of it, guys. I really appreciate it. Congratulations, you guys. Good luck, because she is evil.
Drink.
This is our first.
So with that, I'll give it back to Eric.
Well, everybody, again, Jeff, thank you very much. Your design was great. A lot of the weight fell around completion, and we understand there's some really time challenges that go along with this. So, obviously, congratulations to our remaining competitors. So to Byron, to Damon, and we are very proud to see you go on. And Timothy, again, welcome aboard. And we head in now to challenge number 4. And with that, I turn it over to Melissa, who's going to tell you all about what's in front of you.
Thank you, Eric. I hope everybody's ready for the final challenge. You guys have done such amazing things so far this season, and I'm just expecting more amazing from you guys. So challenge 4 is called Beyond the Clouds. This season on Virtual Design Master, we've been dealing with the aftermath of a second round of the zombie outbreak. We've designed the systems to build the spaceships, which are evacuating what's left of the human race from Earth. We've built the infrastructure to support our new civilization on the moon. We've also tried to prepare what's left of the Earth in case there's another round of the outbreak by fortifying islands across the world by deploying infrastructure remotely. We must now truly prepare for our journey to Mars. Our large ships from Earth are retrofitted on the moon for the long journey. They will be part living quarters, part laboratory space, and part shipping container. I wonder what that could mean. When they are ready to leave the moon. The journey will take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on when the ship is launched. Each ship will carry people and equipment to begin settlement. Ships are designed to land on Mars and become temporary housing until permanent structures are finished. As such, we must design an infrastructure to completely support all of these environments. And it must also continue to be suitable for when the ships reach Mars. Each ship's systems will be connected to an environment we are calling the Elysium Grid, which will be the foundation of the new Martian infrastructure. Of course, power, space, and cooling are all limited for the journey. You will be given one server, a Dell M610 with 12 gigabytes of RAM hosted by Bare Metal Cloud. Each competitor must create a nested deployment of vSphere hosts. You may use any production version you'd like, but no beta software. In addition, the architecture must include vCenter, vCloud Director, vCenter Orchestrator, and your entire guest and management networks running on distributed virtual switches. You must also have at least 2 active, accessible guests available in your environment, including at least 1 Linux and 1 Windows. Any version or distribution is allowed. The second part of your challenge is to show a true virtual design master understands infrastructure from end to end. You must deploy a working overlay network infrastructure, such as VXLAN, in your host environment. You must also illustrate deployment of Docker inside your host environment. You must provide documentation on your environment, including host and network topologies, IP information, and root level credentials so the judges can access the environment. Please make sure to document and justify your design decisions. Don't feel limited by the design minimums. Feel free to add extra components and software as you see fit, provided you have met the requirements. You will have until Saturday, August 9th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is your fourth challenge, Beyond the Clouds.
Is that all?
That's it. That's it.
Do the judges get an extra week?
Yeah. So we have a big challenge in front of us. Yeah, part of the problem that we're going to have, of course, is time constraints. We do know that when we came out of Challenge 3, we saw really distinct time constraints, and that's why we've extended the challenge to give you an entire week plus an additional day here. So our next broadcast is going to be a week late, but the good thing about this is that gives you more time in order to complete your challenge, to do as much as you can, and as Melissa says, feel free to go over and above. Now, meeting the basic requirements is obviously key to the deployment. Anything you can do outside of that just illustrates those extra touches that are always appropriate to be a virtual design master. Now, I know we've got a lot of stuff that's in front of you, so we wish everybody good luck as we head into Challenge 4. And when we talked earlier, you may notice there was a tweet sent out, and it says that in the virtual design master tradition, we like to introduce little surprises. And that is actually a special challenge, not for the final 3, but in fact, Melissa's got something special to tell us about.
Yeah, so we have another little challenge lined up. You final 3, you will be more than busy with your 4th challenge, so you're excused from this, unless, of course, you want to participate, but you won't be eligible for any prizes. We're opening up the challenge to any virtual design master from this season that hasn't made it to the final 3. So we're giving you all a chance to come back and do something else with everyone. So I like to call this challenge Challenge 5.5.5. What's next? And I feel like I need a little disclaimer here that this is not endorsed by VMware in any way, shape, or form, and it is all from me and my brain. So the last version of vSphere that was released before the outbreak was vSphere 5.5. vSphere 5.5.5 was still under development, and we need to finish it. It is up to you to determine what the new groundbreaking features that will be released in the completely fictional vSphere 5.5.5 are. Please justify why your new features are so important. So this is just something a little fun for all our other competitors from this season.
So we were really happy. Again, we've had such great support from all of our folks. In fact, this is going to be our one of our premier sponsors again, Pernix Data, who we saw show up in our designs, and Pernix has very kindly given us a nice shiny SSD, as well as an NFR copy for somebody to be able to use of Pernix Data FVP. So we're very proud of what Pernix Data has done, and for our folks that succeed in the vSphere 5.5.5 challenge, they will take home that very SSD and an NFR copy of Pernix Data FVP. So again, thank you Pernix Data for that, and we are very proud again to welcome back our original competitors in this new and exciting challenge. So everybody keep an eye on your inbox because that's going to be coming your way. Well, we've reached that point of the night. I know that everyone's going to be excited to get started. But don't worry, this is your last chance to get a good night's sleep, and that's the time when you're going to receive your next steps. So our folks at Bare Metal Cloud are very kindly going to set each of the 3 of you up with your own dedicated space. Again, we will give you the illustration as to which servers to use. It is going to be a Dell M610 with 12 gigs of RAM, which is going to be enough to do what you need it to do. Clearly, we'd love to give you much more, but we're a big fan of constraints around here. So thank you again. So Byron, Damon, Jeff, thank you, and Timothy. Good luck to our final three. Thanks again, Jeff, for your work here. Angelo, what do you have to say as we close out our night?
I feel tired for these guys, you know, for what they have to go through the next couple of weeks. Like I'm tired already for them. So, you know, just keep plugging away. Keep, you know, you'll get to the end of it, and I think you'll be pleased with your design. So just keep plugging away.
So Josh Atwell, what do you think? How do you think our folks are going to fare up against challenge number 4 here?
I think they should be glad it's summer and it's really, really hot outside and there's no real strong desire to go outside. You guys have quite the challenge in front of you, and honestly, I'm once again really excited to see what you come up with and how you combat the evil that is the challenges.
And Josh Odgers, again, thank you for coming from around the world. In fact, in the future, what do you think about Challenge 4? How do you think our team's going to make out on this one?
Well, I really thought this was Virtual Design Master, so the challenge is a little bit easy in my opinion.
Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Do I have time to revise it, Eric, or are we locked in at this point?
We're going to call it a day. We'll see. But again,
there's always next season.
That's right. Feel free for our folks to add a little bit of flair. Well,
no, I'm very excited. I think it'll be a great test of all the challenges, and to be a virtual design master, you've also got to be able to design and implement and deploy it successfully. So I think it's a great final challenge.
We really love the fact that we've got new technologies that are coming in here. The OpenStack challenge, congratulations again. We were very proud of how everybody did, especially coming up from maybe limited experience in those platforms and going back and finding not only good things but finding the challenges and getting that environment up and running. And again, this is going to be a great guide for other folks who are about to take these steps. As always, of course, our designs are meant to be used as guidelines for learning, and these are not production deployments. That's the usual disclaimer we have to put on. However, we've got some great work that's been done. The designs, documents, and the YouTube videos of the deployments are going to be published from Challenge 3. So everybody, once again, thank you very much for joining us for Virtual Design Master. Thank you to all of our sponsors, to all of our judges, to all of our competitors, and of course to all of our viewers. Don't forget, if you didn't get a chance to catch us last night on the live V Brown Bag, we did a full off-hours, 1-hour discussion on the Virtual Design Master, complete with our panel and some of our judges and our competitors, and we were very excited about that opportunity to speak there. So we head into our final night. Get a good sleep, fellas, because you'll have credentials waiting for you over the course of the next few hours. And of course, if there's any problem, reach out to us. Again, my name is Eric Wright. On behalf of Angelo, and Melissa, and Jonathan, who's behind the scenes, who's getting ready to, he'll be here for challenge number 4 to school you on what it was like to be the second last one in Virtual Design Master Season 1. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.